Hi again. For those of you who have watched a number of my prior videos, you realize that I'm a retirement income certified professional, meaning I do a deeper dive into creating income strategies for retirees, in addition to giving other advice for those life changes that happen along the way. What I am not is a CPA, a tax attorney, or a tax preparer. I want to make that clarification because I'm going to be talking about some recent tax law changes that you should be aware of. Now, unless you've had all your media devices turned off in the last several days or you've been on vacation, if so, good for you. You probably realize that there's been a lot of legislation passed recently, and a good amount of it has to do with tax law. Today I'm going to go over, in a general sense, some of the things that may affect you, and a couple of terms, and so that you can maybe understand what we're talking about with permanent versus temporary tax law. If you've been working with an advisor over the past several years, you realize that tax brackets have changed back in 2017 and were set to expire in 2025. Those have now been made permanent. There are also things to consider if you're over 65. If you make charitable contributions, and conditions for state and local taxes, how much of that might be deductible. A variety of things, way too many for this video, but the point is there are things now that you need to consider, that some are permanent, so for the long-term planning that makes it a little easier, but there are also some that are temporary, set to sunset in a few years after 2028, that may apply to planning now. So let's talk about permanent versus temporary. You're going to see this in a lot of articles now about the tax law changes. If something has been made permanent, that just means it is not set to expire. It does not mean that Congress can't change it at some point in the future. If it's temporary, there should be an expiration date, which for planning purposes is a target we might use to do things like Roth conversions, or taking money out of retirement accounts, paying the tax now rather than paying it later when a tax bracket or some type of an exemption doesn't exist in the future. So permanent is permanent until it changes. So what does all this mean for you? Well, my recommendation is, if you're not already, you should be working with someone to help create a plan for the future. Again, I'm not a CPA or a tax attorney. I'm not talking about tax advice. I'm talking about strategies for the future where you don't pay more than you have to the government, when you leave money, if that's your wish, to heirs with fewer tax burdens. There are several strategies you can work on now that may make a difference in the future, and how you apply them may depend on whether they are temporary or permanent.